Hello students, hi, hope you are doing very well. My name is Renuka, I am a biology teacher. So today I am here to explain you a very interesting topic from NEET Biology Human Reproduction, which is gametogenesis. So what is gametogenesis? The word gametogenesis indicates gamete production. So gameto means gamete, genesis means production, gamete production. In human beings, gametogenesis is of two types. One is spermatogenesis and the other is oogenesis. What is spermatogenesis? Spermatogenesis is sperm production. Means in male, sperms are produced. So spermatogenesis occurs in males. And oogenesis, ovum production. In females, ovum is produced. So that is oogenesis. So let us clearly study about spermatogenesis here. If you see the diagram, at the age of puberty, in males at the age of puberty, lot of spermatogonia are produced. They are produced from the male germ cell spermatogonium. And this spermatogonia undergoes meiotic division and produces a lot of spermatogonia. And few of that spermatogonia undergoes mitotic differentiation and transforms into primary spermatocytes. So what happens here? In primary spermatocyte, the primary spermatocyte is the first step of spermatogenesis, and this primary spermatocyte undergoes mitotic division. And I should also explain you that there are 46 chromosomes in spermatozoa and there will be 46 chromosomes in primary spermatocyte. Because it is going mitosis division, it's not a reduction division. The chromosome number sustains same, but in meiosis, the first meiotic division is a reductional division. What happens? The chromosome numbers will be reduced to 23. The primary spermatocytes will give two secondary spermatocytes with 23 chromosomes each. And these secondary spermatocytes undergoes the second meiotic division and produces spermatids. These spermatids are unmatured sperms. So they are not matured, and the chromosome numbers of the spermatids are also 23. Each secondary spermatocyte produces 2 spermatids, and finally these spermatids undergo differentiation with the help of some hormones in the testes into spermatozoa. You can also call spermatozoa as sperm. So they get matured into spermatozoa, and this spermatozoa gets amended into the Sertoli cells for the nutrition. If this is the Sertoli cells, if this the Sertoli cell, the oval shaped Sertoli cells, the sperms gets amended like this. So because it gets nutrition from the Sertoli cell. So what next? I have to explain you two interesting words here. So what are those? First one is spermatogenesis. So what is spermatogenesis? The process of sperm formation from spermatozoa. The whole process is called spermatogenesis. So next word is spermiogenesis. So what is spermiogenesis? The formation of sperm from spermatid. This process is there, right? This is spermiogenesis. So why am I stressing here? Because people get confused with spermatogenesis and spermiogenesis. So you have to find the difference between spermatogenesis and spermiogenesis. So what happens? After the spermiogenesis, the sperms are produced and the sperms are ejaculated out from testes through the accessory ducts into outside. So that process is called spermiation. So the process of ejaculation of sperms outside the body from the testes while passing through the ejaculated ducts or accessory ducts is called spermiation. Okay? So this is about spermatogenesis. Now we will discuss about the hormones which are responsible for spermatogenesis. So our next topic is hormones. So what are the hormones responsible for gametogenesis? So what are the hormones? There are two hormones which are responsible for gametogenesis. One is luteinizing hormone and the other is follicle stimulating hormone. Before explaining this, I have to explain about gonadotropin releasing hormone. So what is this gonadotropin releasing hormone? This gonadotropin releasing hormone is released by hypothalamus, which acts on anterior pituitary. So what happens? This anterior pituitary in turn stimulates the production of luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone. This luteinizing hormone acts on the Leydig cells. They act on Leydig cells, which in turn stimulates the production of a hormone called androgen. And this androgen is helpful for spermatogenesis. This is helpful for spermatogenesis. Now, this follicular stimulating hormone acts on serotolin cells. These serotolin cells helps in spermiogenesis. So, here have to notice the difference between luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. Luteinizing hormone will help in spermatogenesis, while the follicular stimulating hormone helps in spermiogenesis. These both ultimately helps in production of sperms. So they both helps in production of sperms. So this is the use of hormones in the process of gametogenesis. So let us see the structure of sperm here. So this is sperm. So let us see the structure of sperm. If you see the sperm is covered by a membrane called plasma membrane. So every human cell is covered with a plasma membrane. So the sperm has 4 parts. The sperm is divided into 4 parts. First is head, second is neck, third is middle piece, and fourth is the tail. So every single part has a special function. So let us see head first. If you see head, there is a bulged part over here. If you see this, it is acrosome. What is this acrosome? Acrosome contains some enzymes which are helpful for fertilization. So they are helpful for fertilization. So how this helpful in fertilization? When you see during fertilization, the ovum has outer layer. If you see this, if you consider this as ovum, it has a layer called zona pellucida layer. Zona pellucida layer. So while fertilizing, this acrosome contains a lysosome enzyme which dissolves this zona pellucida layer and helpful for penetration of the ovum. So this is the use of acrosome. And the head also contains nucleate containing material DNA. So what is DNA? DNA is the material which is responsible for transfer of characters from father to the offspring or parent to the offspring. As we are discussing about sperm here, the characters, the genetic characters are transformed from the parent to the offspring through the DNA itself. Next, neck. Neck is the connection between the head and the middle part. The middle part contains mitochondria. So wherever you study, whether it is a sperm cell or any other cell, a regular cell, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's the powerhouse of cell. Why? Because it produces the energy. So mitochondria is responsible for the production of energy, and that energy is really necessary for the movement of the sperm. So the next part is tail part. So what is this tail part? So what is the use of the tail part? The tail part is actually used for the motility of the sperm. So when you see, the sperm has to enter from cervix into the uterus and pass through the fallopian tube to the ampulla isthmus junction. So if this is the uterus, if you just consider this as the uterus, so it has to transform all over here till here. So this is the ampulla isthmus junction where the fertilization takes place. So to move till here, it needs some energy. So for that energy, the movement is done by the tail itself. So this is the structure of the sperm. So let us see our next topic, oogenesis. Before explaining oogenesis, I even have to explain you a very important point, that is, in a single coitus, 200 to 300 million, 200 to 300 million sperms are released in single coitus. So at least 60% of them should be of normal shape and size, and at least 40% of them should be motility. Should have motility. So this thing indicates the healthy reproductive life of an organism. Okay, so these are the things which are necessary for a regular healthy reproductive thing. So now let us see about oogenesis. So what is oogenesis? Production of ovum from oogonia is called oogenesis. So what happens in oogenesis? In oogenesis, the oogonia is there, no? The female mother germ cell will undergo more mitotic division to produce more and more oogonia. But it happens in the fetal stage itself. So when the baby is in the mother's womb, this a lot of like couples of millions of oogonium are produced inside the mother's womb. So once after the birth, there are no oogonium will be produced. No more oogoniums are produced. So what happens after the birth? The oogonium which is there will actually starts the meiosis stage, meiosis division there itself. But it ceases at prophase 1. So before explaining this, let me explain you two different things, oocyte and follicle. So you'll come across primary oocyte and secondary oocyte and primary follicle and secondary follicle, tertiary follicle, Graafian follicle. So why did I differentiate between oocyte and follicle? Is people get more confused between this oocyte and follicle while studying the oogenesis. So what? So the primary oocyte which is there, which is seized at meiosis 1, will grow the granulosa cells around it. So the granulosa cells will be grown around it, and this is called primary follicle. This is the primary follicle. So now again the primary follicle with primary oocyte. This primary follicle will grow more and more granulosa cells around it and a new theca. New theca means a new layer. So now it's called secondary follicle, and the secondary follicle with primary oocyte itself. So if you see here, the secondary follicle with primary oocyte is there, no? It contains a fluid filled space called antrum. So this is the antrum. The ovum contains a fluid filled space called antrum. So after that, in the puberty, this layers which is there, no, will grow. The granulosa cells will grow and transforms into tertiary follicular stage. So now this is called tertiary follicular stage. And now after the tertiary follicle, this primary oocyte which is there inside the follicle will complete its meiosis division and produces one polar body and the secondary oocyte. Now it is with the secondary oocyte with the tertiary follicle with the secondary oocyte, and this secondary follicle, the tertiary follicle will transforms into Graafian follicle, and by the process of ovulation it will be released out due to release of some hormones like estrogen from 12 to 14 days of a menstrual cycle. And one more thing, each ovary, after the birth, each ovary has 60 to 80,000 primary oocytes in it. So these 60 to 80,000 primary oocytes will only undergo this process till menopause. So what happens? This secondary oocyte which is there here will be staying there itself. It does not complete its meiosis 2. So what happens when this meiosis 2 happens? After the fertilization, when the sperm enters into it, this secondary oocyte will finish its meiosis 2, and then it transforms into ovum and release of secondary polar body. What happens to these two polar bodies? These two polar bodies actually degenerates, and the fluid which is inside it will be helping the ovum for the growth and the nourishment of the ovum. Now this process, the whole process, the production of ovum from the oogonia is called oogenesis. So this is about oogenesis, and there will be a layer around the ovum. Here if you see, this layer is the zona pellucida layer. As I told you before while explaining the sperm, the layer, why this layer is important, because once the sperm enters into this ovum, it makes sure that no other sperms will enter into the ovum. So, and the process of release of ovum from the Graafian follicle is called ovulation. So, the process is called ovulation. So, now let us see the comparison, the quick comparison between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Okay? So, now let us see the quick comparison between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. What? Initially, they both are like the spermatogonium stem cells and the oogonium stem cells will produce its oogonium or spermatogonium by mitosis division. They just increase in number. It's a common thing. But coming to spermatogenesis, it actually starts at puberty. But in oogenesis, it starts at fetal stage. It starts at the fetal stage. So, the spermatogonium undergoes mitosis division, and some of the spermatogonium undergoes differentiation and produces primary spermatocytes, which undergoes meiosis 1, produces secondary spermatocytes, that eventually undergoes meiosis 2 and produces spermatids. And the spermatids transforms into sperms or spermatozoa with the help of some hormones released by serotonin cells, as I told before. So this is about spermatogenesis. So what about oogenesis? No, it actually starts at the fetal stage, undergo meiosis division, produces primary oocyte which ceases at prophase 1 of meiosis 1. And this primary oocyte completes its meiosis 1 and releases one polar body, and this polar body will degenerates. It just degenerates, and the secondary oocyte is arrested at metaphase of meiosis 2. At meiosis 2, the secondary oocyte get arrested. No more further process of meiosis takes place. So when this process takes place, once the sperm enters the ovum, after the ovulation, when the sperm enters, this secondary meiosis will complete and the release of secondary polar body happens, and these both polar bodies will just degenerate. They just degenerate, and the completion of secondary meiosis. Now this ovum and the sperm get fertilized and the zygote is formed. So